The first thing I noticed wasn't the silence. It was the dress. In a station that hovered between dying stars and forgotten trade routes, nothing should have looked that deliberate. The Axiom Relay Outpost was a place of rusted panels, flickering lights, and people who had long since given up on appearances. Yet there she was, standing near the observation glass, wrapped in something that shimmered like liquid midnight. I didn't mean to stare, but I did. And then I made the mistake. "That's a beautiful dress," I said. She turned slowly, as if the words had to travel through layers of time before reaching her. Her eyes, strange, reflective, almost like mirrored surfaces, settled on me. "Is it?" she asked. Her voice was calm. Too calm. I shrugged, trying to play it off. "Yeah. I mean, out here, it's unexpected." Something flickered across her face. Not quite a smile. Not quite anything human. "Unexpected," she repeated. Then she looked past me toward the corridor I had just walked through. And without another word, she moved. The door slid shut behind me with a heavy, mechanical thud. I turned instinctively. Locked. The panel beside it glowed red. Manual override disabled. I frowned. Did that just... "Yes," she said. I turned back. She was closer now. Much closer. I hadn't heard her move. "Why did you lock the door?" I asked, forcing a light tone. "If this is some kind of..." "You noticed the dress," she interrupted. It wasn't a question. "Yeah," I said slowly. "I did." Her gaze sharpened like a lens focusing. "Most do not," she said. A strange chill crept up my spine. "Most people here don't notice anything. They're exhausted." "That is not why," she said. I swallowed. "Then why?" She stepped even closer. Close enough that I could see faint, shifting patterns beneath the surface of the fabric, like stars being born and dying in fast motion. Because they cannot perceive it. I blinked. "I'm sorry, what?" Her head tilted slightly, studying me like a puzzle. "You can," she said. I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was the only thing keeping the unease from turning into fear. "Look, I don't know what's going on," I said, "but I just came here to refuel and get a few hours of sleep." "I'm not." "You are not what you think you are," she said. There it was. The sentence every spacefarer dreads hearing. I raised my hands. "Okay, that's my cue to leave." I turned back to the door and pressed the override panel. Nothing. "Open," I said more firmly. The panel remained red. Behind me, I heard her move again. "You cannot leave yet," she said. "Why not?" "Because you saw me." I turned slowly. "And that's a problem?" I asked. She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she reached up and touched the edge of her dress. The fabric rippled. No, that wasn't right. Reality rippled. The air around her distorted, like heat waves bending light, except colder. Infinitely colder. "What is that?" I whispered. She looked down at herself, almost curiously. "This," she said, "is not a dress." I took a step back. "Okay," I said carefully. "Then what is it?" She met my gaze again. "It is a containment field." I felt my throat go dry. "For what?" Her answer came without hesitation. "For me." The station lights flickered. For a moment, the entire room seemed to dim, as if something vast had passed between us and every star in existence. I blinked hard. When my vision cleared, she was still there. Still human. Still almost normal. But the feeling had changed. The silence I had ignored earlier now pressed in on me, heavy and suffocating. "What are you?" I asked. Her lips parted slightly. "I do not have a word in your language," she said. "But you may think of me as an observer." Observer of what? Everything that can be observed. I stared at her. That's not possible, I said.
She didn't argue.
Instead, she gestured toward the observation window.
Look, she said.
Against my better judgment, I did. At first, I saw what I expected. Distant stars, drifting debris, the faint glow of a nearby nebula. Then the stars shifted. Not physically.
Conceptually.
They rearranged themselves into patterns that shouldn't exist. Lines connected them, forming shapes, geometries that twisted in on themselves, impossible angles that hurt to look at. I gasped and stumbled back. What did you do?
I said.
I showed you, she replied. Showed me what? Her voice softened. What I see. I pressed my back against the wall, trying to steady my breathing. That's not real, I said. It is more real than what you perceive, she said. Then why don't I always see it like that? She looked at me again, and this time there was something almost sympathetic in her expression. Because your mind is not built to survive it. I laughed weakly. Great. That's reassuring. A long pause stretched between us. Then I asked the question that had been building since the moment the door locked. So, why am I still alive? She walked toward me again, slower this time. Because you noticed the dress, she said. That again, I muttered. It means your perception is flexible, she continued. You can see beyond the surface, even if only slightly. And that makes me special? I asked. It makes you useful. I frowned. For what? She stopped just a few steps away. For containment. The word hit me harder than anything else she had said. Containment. I repeated. She nodded. This form, she said, gesturing to herself, is unstable. It requires constant observation to remain coherent. I blinked. I don't understand. You are observing me, she said simply. And that helps? Yes. I stared at her, trying to process it. You're saying, I said slowly, that me looking at you is keeping you together? In part, she said. And if I stop? She didn't answer. She didn't have to. The room seemed smaller now. The walls closer. The air heavier. So that's why you locked the door, I said. Yes. So I can't leave. Yes. A spark of anger flared in my chest. You don't get to just trap me here, I snapped. I have a ship. I have places to be. You would not survive outside, she said. I froze. What? Her gaze shifted toward the door. Not now, she said. Not after seeing me. A cold realization settled in. You changed something, I said. She tilted her head. I revealed something, she corrected. Same difference. No, she said quietly. It is not. I ran a hand through my hair, pacing now. This is insane, I muttered. This is completely insane. Your reaction is within expected parameters, she said. Glad to hear it. I stopped pacing and looked at her. So what happens now? I asked. Her answer was immediate. You stay. The simplicity of it made my stomach drop. For how long? She considered the question. Until I am stable, she said. And how long is that? I do not know. I let out a short, humorless laugh. Of course you don't. Silence again. Then, quietly, I asked. And if I refuse? For the first time, something like uncertainty crossed her face. A refusal is not optimal, she said. That's not an answer. She hesitated. And in that hesitation, I saw something I hadn't expected. Not power. Not control. Fear. You need me, I said. Her gaze snapped back to mine. Yes, she said. The honesty of it caught me off guard. And you can't force me, I added. A pause. Then, no, I took a slow breath. Then open the door, I said. For a moment, I thought she might refuse. Then, slowly, She turned toward the control panel. The red light flickered, shifted, turned green. The door slid open with a soft hiss. The corridor beyond looked exactly as I remembered it. Normal, safe, an escape. I stepped toward it,
Stopped.
and glanced back. She hadn't moved. She stood in the center of the room, the strange dress shimmering faintly, her expression unreadable. "Will you be okay?" I asked, surprising myself. She didn't answer immediately. Then she said, "I do not know." I hesitated. Every instinct screamed at me to leave, to run, to forget this ever happened. But another part of me, the same part that had noticed the dress, held me in place. "You said you needed observation," I said. "Yes. And if no one's watching, I will unravel." I exhaled slowly. "Yeah," I said. "That sounds bad." She said nothing. I looked at the open door, then back at her, then at the stars beyond the glass. For a moment, I almost saw those impossible patterns again. I quickly looked away. "All right.
Aid.
The word felt heavy, final. "I'll stay," I added. Something changed in the room. Not visibly, but undeniably. The pressure eased. The air warmed. The silence softened. "Why?" she asked. The question was genuine. I shrugged. "Because I complimented your dress," I said. "Feels like I started this." That almost smile flickered again. "Your reasoning is unusual," she said. "Get used to it." Days passed. Or maybe hours. Time became unreliable. We talked. At first about simple things. My ship, the station, the routes I used to travel. Then deeper. About perception. Reality. The limits of human understanding. She told me things I couldn't fully grasp, but somehow pieces of them stayed. And in return, I told her what it meant to be human.
To feel. To hope.
To choose. The dress changed. Not in form, but in intensity. The shifting patterns grew calmer, more stable, and her movements became more natural. Less like a projection, more like a person. One day, or what felt like one, I realized something. "You don't need me anymore," I said. She looked at me. "I am stable," she admitted. I nodded. "Then I guess this is it." I stood by the door again. This time it wasn't locked. I placed my hand on the panel.
Paused.
"Will I forget?"
I asked. She tilted her head.
"I can make you forget," she said. "If you wish." I thought about it. About the fear. The impossible things I had seen. Then I shook my head. "No," I said. "I want to remember." She stepped closer. Closer than ever before. "Then you will see differently," she said. "I already do." A pause. Then softly, "Thank you," she said. I smiled. "Next time," I said, "maybe don't lock the door." That almost smile again. "I will try," she said. I stepped into the corridor. The door slid shut behind me. Unlocked. Unforced. A choice. As I walked away, I glanced back one last time. Through the small window, I saw her.
Standing by the glass.
Watching the stars. And for just a second, I saw them too. Not as points of light, but as something deeper. Something vast. Something alive. I didn't look away this time. I just accepted it. And kept walking.